Welcome to the Punting is Winning podcast. Just two fans talking all things Hawkeyes. Here are your hosts, JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye fans, to another episode of Punting is Winning, the All Iowa podcast. We are your hosts, Keith and JD.
Hope everybody had a good New Year's.
Yeah, well, the New Year's was fine, but from a sports perspective, it wasn't so good. At least from the Hawkeye perspective.
It's not been great since the first, I'll tell you.
No, a couple of wins in there against one real big cupcake and then a conference win for the women, but the losses have been quite crazy.
Yeah.
But, we can talk about that. We didn't have a question of the week last week, so let's roll right into this week's topic. Cover men's basketball first. A couple of games this last week since our last show. What was it? Monday night against New Hampshire?
Right after the ball game, we were actually doing recording, and they were playing the game as we were finishing up, so we didn't get a chance to do that. But yeah, they played New Hampshire.
Not a good team.
I mean, they're bad.
Yeah.
And Iowa exploited them.
60-some points in the first half. That tells you a little bit how bad the other team is.
Yeah, 112-70 was the final.
Yeah.
Just not a lot you can learn from a game like that. Just how bad can you beat a team that's not very good?
Yeah.
Really.
And then from the sounds of it, it was a team that really didn't have a coach until right before the season started and didn't have much to put together. So
it's not going to help your resume when, picking time comes along in March.
I don't even want to talk about resume at this point. You got to do a lot of work between now and March to, ironically, or whatever, however you want to look at it, it's a conference that you can do if you can sneak away in here or there that you shouldn't get, which I kind of thought we were going to have an opportunity at Wisconsin, coming off of they're a team that hadn't played for a week and a half, hadn't been playing that good.
0-2 in the conference.
0-2 in the conference, really didn't look that great. And, I guess the only remedy you need to when you're looking bad is to play Iowa.
Yep. Yeah, if you're 1 for your last 25 from 3-point range, just welcome Iowa in, and you can go, 6 for 7, 7 for 8.
Or as a team, you can go 21 for 31.
Yeah.
And it's not even like they were contested. They were practice shot threes.
Yeah. I've never seen a team shoot 68% from a 3-point line before.
Well, but like I said,
for half maybe, but for
when you don't have anybody in your face, it's not that hard to hit shots.
Yeah, I mean I was just going to say, if you're not going to play defense and they're just going to stand wide open on the 3-point line and get the ball in rhythm and shoot, yeah, that's what's going to happen. You're going to get 21 3-pointers busted on you.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else you can say.
We talked about this before the season. I said Iowa's postseason hopes are going to rest on their defense. If they can actually learn how to play defense, they might have a shot. Now, I was betting on them not, because I just kind of know how this is going to go. They're going to win all the games they're supposed to win, the cupcakes, the 8th grade teams that they've been playing lately. And then they're going to come up against teams with a heartbeat. And they're going to get destroyed on their away courts, on the other team's home court. Iowa might hold some serve on the home court at Carver, but, you can't play defense. You're not going to win in this league. You might win a few, just outscoring people. But you're going to find out that every time that a team wins the conference, it's because they play good defense. Fran doesn't teach defense.
I thought from a few of the early games that maybe we've turned a little bit of a corner. Some teams I get hot. The Iowa State game was that's a good team.
Yeah.
they're going to get hot, whatever. But they played Washington State. Washington State's a 13-3 team right now, and playing well. Now, granted, their quality of competition in the West Coast Conference is not as much as it would have been in the Pac-12, but
right,
still playing well. 13-3 that's a good win. Now, the Utah State loss is not a bad loss.
No.
Iowa State's obviously not a bad loss.
Beating
Michigan's
Utah
obviously
actually
not
helps.
a bad loss. Utah is a good win. It's not a quad one win, but
right,
it's still a good win. You kind of had to feel like, okay, I feel okay about where this team's at. They're starting to click a little bit. They're starting to put some points up on the board. They're starting to get healthy. And then they go to the Kohl Center and look uninterested. After they got down, the 30-20, I think it was 30-28, and Iowa had their last lead, and Wisconsin hit a 3 to go up by 1, and then it was, next thing you know, you look up, there's like a 16-2 run, and they were up by 15.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, I see where this is going, because they're not missing. They're just hitting everything that they're throwing up. But then again, as I said, uncontested. So
you mentioned Iowa State earlier in the game that they played with Iowa State, and that they played pretty well against Iowa State. It was a home game, but you could tell the level of intensity on defense was completely different than what we saw the other night, Friday night. Iowa looked like they wanted to play defense against Iowa State, like they had a mission. They were on a mission to play defense, and they did play decent defense. They gave up a few points. Iowa State's a good ball club. Don't get me wrong. They're top 3 for a reason.
I felt they played good defense against Washington State that game too.
What happened at Wisconsin was like just a general lack of focus on the defensive end. A very confused, uninterested maybe. They played, I think when they were playing them pretty well early, and was they were back and forth, and I was hitting threes, actually was hitting a few threes, and they were staying with them. And then it just seemed like when the bottom dropped out, like you said, Wisconsin hit a bunch of shots right there and went on a 16-2 run. They just imploded. Iowa just imploded on themselves. They just didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to respond. It's like they were shell-shocked.
I think from watching those games as well, I think it's a situation where certain people have bad games, and it reflects on both sides of the ball. Their lack of, I don't want to say their lack of effort, because I don't want to put that on them and say that, because that's not really necessarily a fair statement to make. But it's like if their shots aren't falling, it carries over to the defense, and they're thinking about too much about what's killing their offense, instead of just saying, okay, flush that play, move on to the next. I got to get a stop here, and that negates that missed 3 that I had. If I can make a stop here, if I can get a steal, that's what's lacking. Is they go down, they missed a few shots, the bottom falls out because they don't know what to do, because they're thinking too much about, well, my shot's off. What do I have to do to fix that? And by the time they mentally process it, Wisconsin scored 3 threes at that point. Oh, crap. If I'd have just stopped those guys, I could have negated that missed shot that I had earlier, and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. Maybe I'm having a bad shooting night, but if I turn it up on the defensive side and help my team in that aspect, that negates my bad offensive effort, and maybe somebody else picks it up for me. They don't do that. It's like, oh, well, I'm having a bad offensive night. Screw my defense. I've got to figure out what's wrong with my offense. And by the time I figured it out, it's too late. Yeah. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I don't think it's and maybe you fans can roast me for this thought or whatever. I don't think it's a fact that they don't want to play defense. I just think that they don't feel they need to play defense if their offense is clicking. Well,
that might
when
be.
the offense doesn't click and you don't play defense, you're going to get blown out.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Wisconsin was hitting shots that you just kind of throw your hands up and go, well.
Yeah. I mean, they could have shot one from half court and it would have went in.
Probably. They were that hot.
It was like throwing a ball into the ocean.
Yeah. We talked about Iowa's rebounding issues And I'm not going to throw Iowa's rebounding issues into the fray. They did get out rebounded by 14, but
It's hard to rebound when they don't miss.
I was just going to say that when they don't miss, you can't get rebounds. So,
And you're not a good offensive rebounding team anyway.
No, and I'm not gonna even pretend to bring up the rebounds at this point, but that is something they still need to work on. In a close game, rebound here, rebound there might save you from them getting a second chance and making it more difficult to come back or however the case may be. But just disappointed. I thought Drew Thelwell actually played really inspired ball. I think he was like, jump on my back, guys. I'm going to take this. He scored 25 points and played well. But it's just, he had to make up for the fact that Peyton Sanford scored 2 points.
Yeah.
That's your senior. I mean, that's your all Big Ten nominated player of the year. Well, not player of the year, but
Wooden Award nominee.
Yeah, exactly. And tested the NBA waters last year, and he got 2 points at Wisconsin.
And how many is he? He had a 4-4 game against who was it? Was it Utah State? Which I think he was hurting at that point in time anyway because of the wrist injury or whatever. But now that's 2 games where he's had, I think, less than 5 points each game.
Yeah.
And I don't care what you want to say. That's unacceptable for him. I mean, that's not something. It seems to me, and this is my observation, that the minute they go down by 6 or 7 points, it's bombs away. The only way we're going to get back into this is if we start chucking up 3-pointers all the time. You're going away from everything that got you into the point where you were ahead in the first place. You were hitting those mid-range jumpers. You were getting it into the hands of Josh Hicks, who was almost Mr. Automatic in the first 10 minutes.
Yep.
And then you go away from it. You completely go away from everything that you were doing, and you just start chucking up threes.
And he wasn't hitting them either.
No. And if you're not hitting them, why are you continually... shooters got to shoot out of a bad streak? No, I don't think so.
He can do that at practice.
You got to do something else. You got to do something else to help your team. You can't just sit there and continue to be like, well, I'll put up 30 shots. I may make 4 of them. I made 4 threes out of 30. That's 12 points. Well, how many of those other 26 shots that you missed were even good shots? Mm-hmm. How many of those were, the thing that frustrates me is like an out of bounds play. I think it was a fresh shot clock, might have been knocked out or off a foul or something. They inbounded, a baseline inbounds, kicked it out to the wing. He shoots a fall away 3-pointer as he catches the ball. Like, you didn't even try to run any offense. And it wasn't like it was, he was wide open or anything. He had a guy flying at him, and he's fallen off to his right, shooting that. I'm like, what in the heck are you doing? That is the dumbest shot in the history of shots. Why are you doing that? You don't even, this wasn't at a time where the game was like out of reach either. I think this was like when it was like 36-30. What are you doing? You're wasting a possession and giving the ball back. Why don't you just hand him the ball from the out of bounds and say, here, go on down and take a shot? Because that's as good as a shot you're going to have. That was just dumb. You didn't even try to run any offense. And that's kind of a selfish me play. And I think sometimes that's a little bit too much of certain players on that team. Not all of them by any means. So a lot of them are team players and would probably play better if some guys would ride the bench just a little bit more. No.
Yeah, there was times you could kind of see that Fran was struggling to find a lineup, a set of 5 guys that could play well together and play, a good mix of whatever little bit of defense that Iowa would happen to teach and play, and the offense that they can run. So it was like you were trying to find a set of 5 guys that played well together, and there was one lineup in there that I thought, oh my God, this is the worst lineup you could ever put in. And I can't even remember now who it was. I'd have to go back and rewatch the game, but I could tell you it was in the midway through the second, maybe into the second, early in the second half. when Iowa was trying to kind of come back a little bit, there was a lineup out there that just, they were putrid, horrible. Insert whatever adjective you want to. They were terrible.
No. I don't know that it really mattered what lineup you threw out there in that game. So
no.
But as they say, you take the loss, you flush it, you try to learn from it, and you come back the next week, and you go 2-0 this week, and maybe you're a little bit more forgiven for that loss.
Well, you got Nebraska coming in the house. I can't remember what day that is. I didn't look that up.
I think it's Tuesday.
Tuesday or Wednesday, yeah. Nebraska's not exactly a bad team, so you better play your best at home to take care of home court and get one there. Otherwise, it's going to be a long season. I just don't. I think at this point, if they don't do any better than what they've been doing, especially, and it's easy to get down on them when they're, when they just get done playing Wisconsin and Wisconsin puts 116 points on them. It's pretty easy to get down on them at this point. But you got to kind of, flush this one, like you said, put it out of your mind, rededicate yourself, watch the film, find out what you did wrong, and go out and improve. Get better. And they'll probably come out and beat the pants off Nebraska next week and be like, everything right in the world again. But there's just too much wrong.
Yeah,
there's just too much wrong with this
every
team.
Year.
Yeah.
They lose a game that you think that, the corner's finally turned. Then they get just absolutely blitzed by somebody. Usually it's Purdue that does it to them. And then the next game they come out and they'll beat somebody that you're like, yeah, there's no chance. They don't have any chance winning this game. And they win by 15. That's Iowa basketball. It's like, it's like that. You remember the movie Happy Gilmore?
Yeah.
When he was going out there and he'd get in front of that pitching machine and he'd stand there and let that ball hit him, or the pucks hit him in the chest. Point that a little bit lower, and that's what it's like to be an Iowa fan.
Yeah. It's not been easy. And then, we just got done watching the Iowa women play in Maryland. So, that bad taste from the Wisconsin game didn't get any better today.
Doubly bad.
But we'll back up and we'll hit Maryland at the end of this.
Yeah, we can transition into the women's side now. I think we've talked them down hard enough.
People are going to probably hate on us for that. But
like I said, you've got to look at it and look at each week as going, I got to go 2-0 this week. And if I go 2-0 this week, everything's okay again for now.
Yeah.
So, women's games.
Yeah.
They played, was it New Year's Day?
New Year's Day at noon, Penn State.
It's Penn State.
At Happy Valley on the road.
Struggled early, I should say.
Started out horrible. I mean, they just looked like they had just gotten off the plane, hadn't had a chance to warm up. I'm not sure what they looked like. They looked like they didn't know what the game had even started yet. Got down by 10. They were still
playing in 2024.
Yeah.
It was ugly to start.
Yeah.
I was honestly surprised. I think we had a 2-point lead at halftime.
Yeah, it might have been.
Kind of surprised at that, but it's the veterans that aren't really doing much for you right now.
No.
I mean, Addie O'Grady looks about 2 steps too slow for everybody right now.
Yes.
Hannah Stolke is fighting hard, but she can't make a layup. And, Lucy Olson's almost nearly automatic from the mid-range, but she can't do it alone.
Right.
And, quite honestly, the best lineups they threw out there were ones when the young kids were in.
Yeah.
That's when Iowa made their comeback and started to build on some momentum. When the Stremlows and the Mulaney's and the Haydens and the Guytons were in there.
Yep.
And that's the lineup that was pushing them forward. And of course, Taylor McCabe had a good game.
Yes, she did. Yeah, she finished with 17 points, Taylor McCabe, and she was the high scorer. Hannah Stolke did benefit from getting her 10 rebounds. The disappointment for me was Kylie Feuerbach never scored. Didn't score in the game.
Yeah.
Kind of disappointed in that. Their stats won't blow you away. They did shoot 52% for the game as far as field goal percentage. 3-point percentage has been not good
Abysmal.
for Iowa. 33%, and that was probably as good as they played. As good. They've shot as well then as they have for a while, and they're only at 33%. 69% free throw shooting. They were actually out rebounded. Did you know that?
Doesn't surprise me.
Penn State had 13 offensive rebounds to Iowa 6, and 35 rebounds to Iowa's 33. Iowa had 12 turnovers.
Offensive rebounds led to how many second chance points, I wonder.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
In a game that you won, by 14?
80 to 68.
12.
So they did come back. They did. They were up by 2 at the half, tied at the third quarter. I think it was it 55-55. And then Iowa just kind of asserted themselves in the fourth and pulled away. 80 to 68, and I think Penn State hit the final shot at the last second to make it. It was 80-66. So I don't know what you glean from this. You kind of expected Iowa that they should have taken care of business early on this game and on this team. Penn State's not very good. They're going to be in the bottom. There's 3 or 4 teams that are going to be in the bottom. It's going to be Purdue, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Northwestern. Penn State will be at the bottom. You got to take care of those teams. You have to not lose to those teams, home or away. And then you just hope that you can survive and win some of the home games against the teams like UCLA, USC, Maryland, Ohio State. Even the Nebraskas and Indianas of the world are going to be salty. But you have to take care of the games you should take care of. I mean, I saw something, I don't know if it was 24/7. Somebody had a early prediction on seeding. They had Iowa as a 6 seed. I think it's probably more like an 8. But,
We'll see how the rest of the season plays out. They got to cut the turnovers out. They have got to learn to value the ball.
Yeah.
They
had 12 turnovers at Penn State, which was probably on the lower end of but I think they had 12 turnovers at the half today.
I'd say they had more turnovers in the first 5 minutes than they had shots.
Yep. Yeah.
And they were down 19-6.
Well, let's transition to today's game. Maryland win 74-66 at Carver. Iowa fell behind, I think, as much as 25, or was it 27?
Pretty bad. It was bad.
I think it was 25. 24-25. And fought their way back and came within 5 points. I think it was 73-68 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And or 63-58. That's what it was. 63-58. And then, just like you do, you force some passes that were not great. You missed some shots underneath that were, hitting the bottom of the backboard, or you're double teamed and you can't figure out how to throw it out to somebody that's open. There was opportunities to come back. They shouldn't have dug themselves a big hole like they did in the first quarter. It was just,
21 turnovers.
21 turnovers.
Can't win when you turn the ball over 21 times. You give up 21 possessions.
Yeah, we talked about value in the ball, value in every possession.
Mm-hmm. And they're
not doing it.
The thing of it is they're dumb turnovers.
Yeah.
They're trying to force the ball into a position where it's not going to. You have got to make the absolute perfect pass, and you're not Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
She's not on the team anymore. And let's put it this way: as good as she was, she didn't make the perfect pass every time either.
No.
And so you're asking people you're asking them to make the perfect pass into a tight window, and it's just not going to happen. The lob pass into the post has not worked at all this year. I mean, that's been brutal because I'm sorry, Addie O'Grady's got a 2-inch vertical, and she's not going to go up and get that ball.
No. And she's pretty slow.
Yeah. So you got to figure something else out. We're cutting back cuts, screens, all that stuff. You can't
Not a
play
lot
the
of
same
movement.
offense that you played when you had Caitlin Clark as your point guard, because you don't have that caliber of player on your team that can thread the needle and that sees things 3 plays in advance. You just don't have that anymore.
There was one time, I think it was in the second quarter, when Maryland was blitzing Iowa and they were hitting 3-pointers and making layups, and it was getting out of hand pretty fast. I looked over and I thought Jan Jensen was scratching her head, and she was looking like she didn't know what to call, didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do. Like she was confused. She couldn't understand why it was happening. And at that point, I was like, yikes, this is not good. I mean, she's not exuding any confidence whatsoever. And I'm standing, 140 miles away, and I'm thinking, she doesn't know what to do. She's a head coach. She's confused.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she doesn't know what's going on. I was baffled by that a little bit. I mean, you never saw that out of Lisa Bluter. She exuded a confidence of that she knew what she was doing and that she was going to get it corrected immediately. And she never gave that impression that she was confused, out of her element, lost,
didn't know what
not
to
sure
do.
what to do.
Now, I will say, the officiating in this game was probably some of the worst that I've seen in a long time. And I'm not saying that that's the reason why Iowa lost, because they turned the ball over 21 times.
Mm-hmm.
They can overcome bad officiating if you don't turn the ball over 21 times. But they were calling stuff that was just not there. I mean, they were just that. It's like Iowa would make a run and get the ball game close. They got it into that 73-68 or 63-58, whatever it was.
Yeah, 63-58.
And then all Maryland knew that all they had to do was just drive the ball in, flail around, and they going to get a call, whether there was something there or not. I mean, they were initiating contact and flailing and just throwing the ball up. Oh, there's a foul on Iowa. At some point, you've got to say, no, I'm not going to buy that crap.
Yeah.
And you saw that from, I hate to keep bringing up Caitlin Clark, but you see that in games where she'd be like, are you going to buy this? You can't call that. That fire's missing too.
Yeah.
It's like they're being able to be pushed over and walked all over because, well, Jan Jensen's too licensed and too likable and too, I don't want to say meek to say anything, because I'm sure she will get PO'd, but she's not got the fire where Lisa Bluter would just get in her face.
All right.
And she commanded that respect. And Jan doesn't have that right now. Even at 25 years at Iowa, she doesn't have that, because this is her first year as a head coach. And she doesn't know when to assert that and say, no, look, stop screwing me. This is BS. Get a technical once in a while.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Today would have been a perfect time in that run of, when I think Maryland went up by 24. Show some fire. Get a technical. Complain about the officiating. Maybe they'll change their minds a little bit on things. I mean, that first, Iowa was up 2-0, and that ball gets thrown around and tipped around, and they run into their head coach, and everybody's so concerned about their head coach that nobody paid attention to the fact that the ref signaled it was Maryland's ball, even though it really shouldn't have been.
Right.
I'm like, I would have been up and screaming at that point.
Yeah.
And that's a minute into the game.
Yeah. Yeah, I was confused by that too. I don't know why it looked to me like it was clearly off Maryland.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they thought that. I guess I'd have to go back and review that, but
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the women's game is not the women's game it was 5 years ago. It's faster.
Yes.
It's more intense than it has ever been. And these officials can't keep up with it. They don't know what to do. So they're just, well, let's just, it looked like there might have been a foul there. That's a situation where we would normally call a foul, because normally there would be an obvious foul there. So we're going to go ahead and call it, even though girl straight up and down doesn't do anything and you run into her. We're going to call the foul on the defense because, that's what we normally would do. They don't know. They don't have a clue.
Yeah.
And that's the travesty of watching sports anymore, is officials, the game has gotten too fast for some officials, but they're not willing to step away from it.
Yeah. Well, and it's too bad that the NCAA or Big Ten at this case, with their head of officials, hasn't stepped in and weeded out to some degree. But I'm sure there's probably a limited amount of officials that are qualified.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And that's probably part of why they can't do that, is they have to go with what they have.
You used to have, back in the day, you used to have certain officials you knew you could look at them and say, all right, maybe bad official, but he's going to be bad consistently for both teams. It's not like he's going to be like favoring one team over the other. He's going to make some pathetic calls, but it's going to be in both directions.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have guys that are like, yeah, this is the guy we want reffing this game because this guy's good. He lets certain contact go, whatever the case may be. You don't even have that anymore. It's just like you've got guys that they're wanting to they want it to be about them because they're the officials and they're the unknowns, so they want to be known. That you talk about guys, you shouldn't even know the officials' names.
Yeah.
If an official's good, you shouldn't even know his name. As a fan, coaches are obviously going to know him, but fans should never even know the guys' names. The only reason why we know them is because they're bad.
They've been bad lately.
Yeah. So, and again, that's not an excuse why Iowa lost. Iowa lost because they turned the ball over and they don't value the possession.
Yeah.
But
they were just not careful with the ball, and that we've been saying that since day one. Got to value the possessions, and they are not doing it.
Yep. So, what do we have on the horizon for them?
I don't remember. I didn't look it up to see who they play next or when they play next.
They're at Illinois on Thursday, and then they have Indiana at home on Sunday. So
yeah, well, two games that are not going to be easy.
Yeah. I mean, this is obviously not as good an Indiana team as it's been in the past, but still a good Indiana team.
They'll be salty. Yeah.
And Illinois is a team that you don't want to play them on the road.
Right.
And that's exactly where we got to go.
Yeah.
So, if you go 1-1, you call that a win. If you go 2-0, that's an exceptional week.
Yes.
So
playing like this, turning the ball over, I don't see a 2-0 week.
Playing like this, you're going to have an 0-2 week.
Yeah.
If you don't value the possession more than you've been doing it the last few games, it's going to be an 0-2 week, and you're going to be sitting at 12-5.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I would like to see that those passes be more crisp, less lackadaisical-ish. Like
make the pass if it's there,
especially if it's inside.
Yeah. You don't throw into a triple team, and you don't throw lazily into a triple team.
Right.
When you've got somebody who's sagging down on your post player, when you know that they know you're looking to get the ball inside, pull up and hit the mid-range, kick it out to a three-point shooter, kick it over to the opposite side of the court, bring the defense over and then back cut them. Yeah. And I'm not even a basketball coach, and I know those things to look for when you're trying to play against a team that collapses on the post players. Those are the ways you beat those.
Yeah.
You got to hit the shots too.
Yeah.
You can't just say, well, I think I can put this pass in there between the three defenders that are guarding my one person. Well, three defenders are on one, two of them are open.
Yeah.
Find the open player.
Yeah, there's not a lot I haven't noticed that there's not a lot of movement in the offense either. No. It's like one person cutting, maybe one person setting a screen, and the other two, the person with the ball, and the other one's just standing there.
Yep, camping at the 3-point line, going to a spot and waiting.
There should be enough movement with everybody, and everybody should know where everybody's going to be.
Yeah, if you're running a motion offense, there should be nobody really standing still.
Yeah.
But
I'm not sure I understand, but I'm not a basketball coach. I've never played basketball, but I have watched enough basketball to know what to look for and what not to look for.
I've coached basketball, so
there you go.
I learned the motion offense, and I know what they're supposed to be doing. I know all the screens and the back picks and the cuts, and they're not doing it. They're just, it's like they go to a spot and they just wait there.
Yeah, camp out.
Let's see if they're on to playing a zone defense. I'm going to stand over here on the wing or in the short corner and hope for the ball gets reversed over to me and I have a chance to put up a shot. Otherwise, I'm just going to stand here because That's what
I'm
I'm told
excited
to
for
do.
the freshmen and what's coming in
Yeah.
the horizon. I mean, they are getting valuable playing time, and it's experience that you will not, that you just cannot, you can't beat right now. This is the best thing that you could
Right.
have happen to those younger players, is to get as much experience when they're young as they can, because, you know, that's just going to help them down the line. Next year, they're going to have that much more experience. You know, Iowa may take their lumps next year because they're going to be young. They're going to be losing, you know, a Falter and Lucy Olson and O'Grady and, you know, Feuerbach. All those girls are gone next year. Because you also have like Addie Deal coming in, supposed to be a fantastic player. You've got Layla Hayes coming in. You've got Journey Houston coming in from the Davenport area. You've got those three girls, and they're highly touted. This
on
team,
top of the freshmen that you already have.
yeah, on top of what you already have, this team next year, or not next year, but the year after that probably, and the year after that for sure, whew, they're going to be the UCLA's of you know, then what UCLA is now.
Yeah,
they're going to be
well,
really good.
All right,
Just have to kind of get through that, I guess. Get through this early, you know, get them their experience, get them their time, and good things on the horizon,
as they say.
Yep.
So that does bring me up to one thing I did want to talk about. Let's talk a little bit about the college football playoffs and the games that we have seen, and some of the bowl games. Yeah, granted, we did talk a little bit about the Iowa game, but we didn't really mention a lot about the SEC teams that didn't fare well in their games. Alabama, South Carolina, you know, those teams that were propped up by the ESECPN network to be the best thing since sliced bread at 9-3. You know, Alabama losing to a depleted Michigan team that was 7-5, and really it was pretty handily. I mean, it was 19-13, but I think Michigan pretty much had that in control.
It was 16-0 at the end of the first quarter, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. It was, you know, that is not a good Alabama team. And, you know, the narrative I heard after, well, Alabama just didn't care. It was a bowl game that didn't matter to them. Well, you still played a depleted Michigan team who had a bunch of opt-outs and were playing second and third team defense and quarterbacks. Give me a break. You thought you should have been in the playoffs, and you had most of your starters playing. No, don't throw that at me. Same thing with South Carolina. You know, nobody talked about Illinois being in there. Illinois was 9-3. Illinois pretty much led them throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
And, you know, this was the hottest team in America. South Carolina, oh, nobody's going to beat them. You just lost to Illinois, a team that nobody even would have considered for a playoff spot with the exact same record as you, because, oh, they didn't play that tough SEC schedule. Well, I'll tell you right now, based on what I saw out of the SEC teams, LSU, Alabama, South Carolina, they'd have been pulling up the spots where Northwestern, Purdue, and Washington were. Sorry, SEC is not the premier conference this year.
No.
And
no,
you know, all you SEC homers out there that say memes. I'm stupid, you're wrong. I mean, you may be undefeated in hypotheticals, but you're not undefeated on games that matter.
I was laughing at some of the memes on Facebook and different social medias that were saying fraud alert, and it had a SEC logo underneath. So, yeah, I agree with you. They have Texas left, and I don't think Texas is going to get by Ohio State.
I don't either.
You know, you and I talked before this about who's going to be in the championship game. You think it's going to be Ohio State and Penn State? I think it's going to be Ohio State and Notre Dame, personally. I don't know. I'm not sold on Penn State. I think they're good. Don't get me wrong. But I think right now Notre Dame is playing as well as they've played all year. And maybe I'm going to be wrong. And I would like to see a Penn State, Ohio State championship game just to validate the Big Ten conference.
Oh,
but
you'd have SEC homers heads exploding.
they would.
Paul Feinbaum would have a heart attack, which would be fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't lose any sleep
Wouldn't
over
shed a
that
tear.
deal. Yeah.
But here's the reason why I think it's going to be Penn State, because I'm not 100% sold on Notre Dame yet. I think Notre Dame had just as weak of a walk to where they're at as Penn State did. Did I think Indiana deserved to be in the playoffs? Absolutely. Did I think Indiana was one of the top 4 teams in the playoffs? No. And they showed that. But they played a 10-point game to Notre Dame, at Notre Dame. I think they played a fairly weak Georgia team this year, and a Georgia team that did not have their starting quarterback, which maybe that was good for them. Who knows? But I wasn't impressed with what Georgia did all year. They barely beat some teams that they should have blown out. So I don't think that was as good of a Georgia team as we've seen in years past. So I'm not sold on Notre Dame being all that much better. And I just think that Penn State has been tested more at this point. And maybe I'm wrong, and it could just be the bias. And let me preface this by saying I can't stand Notre Dame and I can't stand Penn State. So
yeah,
there's no bias here of
either.
which team I'm not doing the whole Big Ten bias here because I despise Penn State. I think Franklin is a joke.
Yeah.
And I think the university is a joke for what happened with Paterno and Sandusky, and the fact that they just basically swept it under the rug and said, it is what it is. I will never have respect for Penn State after that. I've never had respect for Notre Dame. Even though I wasn't alive, the fainting Irish still bugs me. And I'll never have respect for a team like that because you openly cheated and you admitted it later.
Yeah.
If you can't, in a college sport, especially in that time frame where gambling was not the preeminent piece that it is now, and you cheat to be the cream of the crop, to beat Iowa, you lose my respect.
Well, you and I grew up in a household that was very anti-Notre Dame. So, we always used to laugh that the NBC network that always showed the Notre Dame games, we always called them the Notre Dame Broadcasting Channel.
Yep.
So, we didn't like Notre Dame. Notre Dame was forced upon us before cable. And so we grew up despising Notre Dame. So I don't care for Notre Dame. I don't care for Penn State. And a lot of the same reasons you don't. I don't like James Franklin. I think he's just one step above PJ Fleck, to be real honest. And I'm not even sure that's bad. So,
that might be dishonoring Fleck.
Yeah, to some degree, I don't like either one of them, but I think that what we're going to see is Ohio State just basically flex its muscle throughout this deal, and Texas really lucky to get by Arizona State. Just that helmet to helmet call that wasn't called. I don't know how in the world
when could say that you can't make that call in that spot in the game. That alone tells me that you're an idiot.
You should have brought in the refereeing crew that did the Iowa-Missouri game because they were looking for it on every play.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have thrown a flag on this. There'd have been a rain of hankies come down in that if it was that crew.
Every official would have thrown their flag on
everyone. They even have brought the one from the end line and said, "Get in here, throw your flag."
But even that, it's the replay officials should have stopped it.
Oh, I know it
and called it. They had every opportunity to do it, but it was like, no, this might actually cost Texas the win here, so we can't do that. And I think that's just, I think there's a lot of money involved that people will not, they don't want to admit that some of these games are rigged. And I think some of them are just based on the fact that that is a blatant call. There's nobody that would they have made that call if it was the first quarter? That's the thing. They would have made that call in the first quarter.
I don't know how you didn't make it at all.
But to say for people to say, well, you can't make that call in that stage of the game. That's just like, you can't make that call that whatever it was, the blocking foul in the Iowa UConn. You can't make that in that stage of the game. It's still a foul.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
You have to make that call.
Yeah.
And they had an obligation to make that, and they didn't. And the whole reason was it would have given Arizona State an opportunity to win that game. Now, They still had to execute, and they still had to kick the field goal and still had to make it. But I think it was well, crap. We may be no SEC teams in here if we do this. So where's the money at?
Yeah.
And I think that ruled the day.
Well, and the thing of it is, Arizona State had more than one opportunity to win that game. That 4th and 13 where they threw the touchdown pass. I mean, come on. 4th and 13. This was the game.
Mm-hmm.
And you let them score? Yeah, you just can't do that.
I'm not saying that it's all on that, but that call alone was a travesty.
Yeah,
that was.
It was. I mean, that's the definition of the rule.
Yeah, that is
just, if you're looking for video descriptions of that rule, there's your video description right there. Mm-hmm. There's no other way around it.
Every point of the rule.
Yep.
But hey, let's not call it because it might change the outcome of a game. Well, and I think Joel Klatt said it best was targeting needs to be called, but we need to reevaluate whether the player gets ejected. Sometimes the targeting is forcible contact with the head or neck area, but it's not the fact that the player's trying to do it, but it still happens and it is still targeting. Should that person still be ejected for it? I don't think so. And I think that's what he said was in a game like that, the officials are dictating, well, we really don't want to kick somebody out of a game like this. I mean, that's the rule. So, okay, take that part of the rule out and say, yeah, it's still a 15-yard penalty. They've got one personal foul. It's kind of like an unsportsmanlike conduct. You get a second one, you're gone.
Yeah.
Okay, now you've got one. If you get a second one, you're gone. You get a second, you get an unsportsmanlike, you get a targeting, you get something like that, you're gone. Then you deserve to be gone.
Yeah, two targeting calls. I agree with you. 2 targeting calls and you are eliminated, or you're ejected from the game. One,
no, I think a targeting and an unsportsmanlike,
okay,
taunting or something
like that. We could do it that way, where you have basically 2 personal fouls. You're gone.
It has to be unsportsmanlike. It can't just be a personal foul, because personal foul would be a face mask or hit out of bounds, something. That's
you'd have to make the rule to say that that's what it is, and then go by.
It has to be something flagrant or egregious.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, and I think that's the reason. One of the reasons why they would be hesitant to make that call is, we don't really want to. If they do win, this guy's out for the first half of the next game. That's still part of the rule, and you still got to call it regardless. I mean, if the roles were reversed and that was Arizona State, would you have called it?
Probably.
So,
yeah.
But I do want to say one thing that I was thinking about this week. I was talking to some people and I said, I do, because we're talking about the Big 12, I'm a little envious of Iowa State in a roundabout way. And I know this is going to sound really weird to say that I'm envious of Iowa State, but think about this. Iowa State plays in the Big 12. Are there any blue blood teams in the Big 12?
Football?
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
So you have an opportunity every year to have a different conference champion.
Yeah.
It's not like, well, it's going to be the Ohio States, the Penn States, the Michigans, and then all the rest, and Oregons and all the rest. This is anybody, any given day can win that conference. And I'm envious of that.
Yeah. Next year could be Kansas.
Yeah. Could be Texas Tech.
Yeah.
And and that's honestly, to me, that's great for football, but it's not going to happen in other conferences.
Hey, I haven't looked this up, but did the ACC win a game in bowl season?
2.
They won 2? Okay.
Louisville and Syracuse.
Okay. Because I know at one point they were what?
2-11.
2. Okay.
But they got 13 teams in bowl games.
Yeah. That's, I guess, when you get mediocre conference and everybody beats everybody and everybody got 6 wins, everybody gets to go, right?
Yeah. So
mediocrity reigns supreme.
Yep, that's my rant on the college football playoffs and what I think. Disagree with me all you want. That's fine.
I don't want to extend this too much, but Iowa did get a defensive tackle from South Dakota State. His name escapes me right now.
Bryce Hawthorne.
Bryce Hawthorne. There you go. I knew it was Bryce, but I couldn't remember that. I didn't want to go too far.
285, redshirt freshman.
Yeah, he'll have time.
All-American, second-team freshman All-American in the
Yep.
FCS.
And as of
5.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks, or vice versa, something like that.
As of 8:30, we still don't know if there's been a decision on Gronowski, the quarterback from South Dakota State. Not sure when we'll find that out. Maybe by the time this airs tomorrow, there might be a decision made. But as of right now at 8:30 on Sunday night, there's not been a decision made that I know of yet. I haven't seen anything come across.
And I think there's a wide receiver from someplace in the
Chattanooga.
MAC. Well, there's one from someplace in the MAC that's going to visit on the 9th.
Oh, Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're still waiting on the kid from Chattanooga to make a decision, which the longer that drags out, the less likely he is to come here, I feel.
Yeah. Well, it is, there's another window going to open up in January. We'll see. We'll see what transpires. Iowa should still be a player. They should continue to be a player and look and try to put the best team that they can out on the field next fall. So get what you can get.
Yep. Need to get some.
Gronowski's a big get. You get him.
Would be a big get.
Yeah. He's your guy.
Yep.
And I said that earlier on Facebook
receiver,
post.
A speedy wide receiver. I think you've got something going.
Yeah.
And then you got to pull in a corner or two.
Yeah, there was a cornerback that's going to visit too. I can't remember who that was from. Some little small school out east.
Yeah, gosh darn it, I can't remember who it was.
We're going off the cuff here, so I'm sorry we don't have the answers.
I had it a couple of days ago.
Yeah, I saw it earlier too, and I can't remember that. Anyway, well, Iowa just needs to, they can get what they can get, and hopefully they can put a decent team out on the field. It's going to be a tough year next year for Iowa with the way the schedule's playing out. So
yeah,
get what you can get, do the best you can, and try to move forward.
Yep. So, all right. Well, I think with that, we'll wrap it up. Make sure to like and subscribe to the videos.
Question of the week.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Question of the week. Let's do that first.
We do have a question of the week this week. And I'm going to phrase it like this. Hopefully I don't screw this up. Iowa gave up 116 points to Wisconsin at the Kohl Center last Friday night, 2 nights ago. That brought me to thinking about who scored the most points on Iowa ever. So I found a book or a record book that showed all of the 100-point scores against Iowa all time. And I went through that list, and there's 54 of them. Iowa 7 and 47, by the way, in those games that the opponent scored 100 points. How many points has the opponent scored on Iowa? The most points that Iowa's ever given up is how many points? How many points is the highest amount that Iowa has given up ever in a game?
And to whom?
And to whom, if you want to go that far. Usually when you find out the answer, you find out the answer to the other one too.
Yeah.
So who scored the most points on the Iowa basketball team ever in any game? Basketball, men's.
And what was the points total?
Yeah. Give me the points total. How many points did they score? You can give me the team that did it. Kudos to you. It's not going to be easy to find.
I was close.
You were close. You said 116 to Wisconsin, and I'm like, that would have been a good answer, but it's not the correct one, unfortunately.
Yeah. All right, there you go. There's the question of the week. So, as I was saying, like and subscribe to our videos here. Show us some support. Throw some comments out there. Tell us whether we're crazy or not on our thoughts on the college football playoffs, the direction of the Iowa men's and women's basketball games or basketball teams. tell us if you saw the same things we're seeing. And I have to believe that you're seeing a lot of the same stuff that we're seeing. But also make sure you catch us on the Spotify, TikTok, Twitter, Blue Sky, Apple Podcasts, Podmart, I think, is something that's new to it as well. It's been going out to that. I don't remember what's the exact name of that. But, and then also check out the merchandise store too if you're interested in helping to support us a little bit. We get very little profit on our merchandise, but that little profit does go to helping keep the channel alive and giving us a little bit better editing tools to make things better. So any support that you can give would be great. We'd greatly appreciate it. We appreciate everybody listening and sticking with us this long. Today marks the 1 year mark that we started. We've actually done 51 episodes because we did skip the second week. I think something happened. We didn't end up. There's something about travel arrangements or something because we were still doing it in person at that point. But this is the 51st episode.
I think it was the weather.
Yeah, I think it was too. So, yeah. So any support that you guys can give us is great. We do appreciate you listening. And as always, we end up with a rousing "Go Hawks!"
Go Hawks.
All right. Catch you later.